If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description.
The false god returns after forsaking us for all these years. Your absence has been a clear indication of your weakness and your lack of power over this world. Now, we, the new rulers, have taken over, and your time has come to an end. Prepare to be crushed into pieces as I prove to all that you are nothing but a feeble shadow of your former self.
Screw you!
Got him! Got him! We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
I don't really have an intro for Lone Fungus. Nothing clever or insightful to kick things off. Its creation started back in 2019 by a lone developer named Basti. It had a successful Kickstarter in 2021, and it officially launched in 2023 to very positive Steam reviews. I'm sure the road was bumpier than it looked, but from the outside, things seemed smooth, and players really seemed to enjoy it. Besides Valdis Story and Hollow Knight, Lone Fungus has been one of the top games my viewers have consistently asked me to check out. And with the sequel just dropping, I figured it's high time we look at where this fungal story began. Well, where it began for us, because the sequel's actually a prequel, so... Anyway, in Lone Fungus, you play as Greencap, a little mushroom boy who wakes up in a ruined underground civilization, all alone. Except for all the things trying to kill him. Thankfully, he's got some stationary statue buddies to guide him along the way. His quest? As the last remaining mushroom, Greencap must collect 10 spells encoded with the DNA of the 10 deceased mushroom tribes. Then, head to the surface to resurrect Mushroom Society. I'm sure this won't end tragically. So, is this setup perfect for a fun guy? Or should this Mushroomvania be left in the dark?
Combat.
At the start, Greencap's got nothing but the most adorable running animation I've ever seen, and one of the weakest jumps I've ever seen. But what'd you expect from our portly Portobello? Don't worry though, our mushroom hero gets some magnificent moves as the game progresses. Eventually, he'll find the green pine sword, which lets Greencap slay enemies and bounce off their heads. And at this point, the Hollow Knight inspiration becomes pretty clear. Lone Fungus shares that ruined underground kingdom vibe along with familiar combat mechanics like pushback on hit and, of course, the pogo. It's fast, fluid, fun, and familiar at this point, so its inclusion is welcome, especially in a platforming heavy game like Lone Fungus. And that's the thing, Lone Fungus's core strength isn't its combat, it's its platforming. Combat plays second fiddle, but it's still great. Sword swings are quick and responsive, pogoing off enemies never gets old, and the sheer number of spells makes it hard to keep up. In a good way. There are 10 plus spells in the game you can cast with a tap of the right bumper, and you can switch between them in real time by clicking the left analog stick. So eventually, you've got a solid arsenal at your fingertips. But here's where it gets good. Each spell can be altered or enhanced by hitting it with your sword. Then, they can be further modified by striking them with your Spin Slash, an advanced move you unlock later in the game. So yeah, that's roughly 30 spell iterations based on how you interact with your spells. My number may be a little off. Some spells like Berserk don't have alternate forms, but you get the idea. There's a lot of spellcasting going on, and it's layered in a way that rewards experimentation. And of course, with spells comes mana cost. Which brings us to the mana bar. The magic system here is one of my favorites, partly because it borrows a mechanic from Hollow Knight. Hit jabronis with your sword to recharge mana. Simple, effective, satisfying. And look, the game even tells you how many times you can cast a spell before your mana runs dry. I love that. I also dig the green dots on the mana bar. They show how much mana you need to heal. If your bar is above 3 dots, you can heal 3 times. And yes, healing works exactly like it does in Hollow Knight. Hold a button and watch your little dude patch himself up. Unless he gets interrupted, which sucks. But hey, risk reward, am I right? Let's wrap this section by talking about bosses. Lone Fungus has a ton of them. Within the first 2 hours, I'd already fought 6 or 7. This underground dystopia is just lousy with the buggers, which is a good thing because they're fun to fight. I never found them too challenging, but they were always engaging enough that I couldn't just face tank my way to victory. These fights actually made me run, dodge, platform, and parry to earn the win. Oh yeah, there's parrying in this game, and I was actually pretty good at it. It's a little different from the usual parry at the exact moment setup. In Lone Fungus, you parry moments before the attack connects so that the projectile hits your cap while it's flashing. And I really liked that. It felt intuitive, and watching bullets bounce off your cap looked cool. Overall, boss fights were good stuff. I'd have to say my favorite part about them were how rewarding they were, and I mean that quantitatively. I loved finding a boss because I knew I was about to get a new skill or ability. Also, I couldn't help but notice how many bosses followed the Donkey Kong Country philosophy of boss design. Take a regular enemy and make them a ton bigger. It got a chuckle out of me. That's it for combat. Lone Fungus borrows a few combat mechanics from a particular bug game, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. From pogos to layered spellcasting, intuitive parrying, and a mana system that rewards aggression, the game builds a combat experience that's fast, flexible, and surprisingly deep. Bosses come early and often, offering just enough challenge to keep you moving, dodging, and parrying to survive these mini bullet hell encounters. It's not flawless, it has a life system for some reason, but the game's fun, and that's what matters most.
Abilities, platforming.
As good as combat is, Lone Fungus's bread and butter lies in its platforming. Thankfully, our little mushroom man feels absolutely great to control. Let's start with abilities. I'm not going to go in depth because we'd be here forever. Greencap gets a lot of them, from traversal moves like upward and forward dashes to wall bounces and spells that conjure platforming tools. His kit is, in a word, overwhelming. And it's not just the maneuvers. You've got a ton of environmental objects to interact with, each with its own behavior to memorize and master. Some launch you forward when struck with your sword, others require you to slam into a pit of spikes at 100 miles per hour just to ricochet to the next target. Needless to say, Lone Fungus will test your platforming skills. But here's the thing, moment-to-moment platforming is actually pretty tame. The critical path has sequences that will push you, but things don't get truly spicy until you dive into the game's optional areas. Throughout Lone Fungus, you'll encounter astral gates and what I've dubbed ladybug courses. Ladybug courses are mid-level platforming challenges tucked into dead ends, rewarding you with ladybugs, collectibles not unlike the grubs from Hollow Knight. Collect enough and you'll unlock milestone rewards. Astral gates, on the other hand, are for the clinically insane. These platforming gauntlets are pure chaos, fast, complex, and so intricate it's hard not to laugh at the absurdity. Okay, I'm being a little facetious, though they are incredibly difficult and are probably best played with at least 6 or 7 fingers on each hand. They're also well designed and genuinely fun to play. And more often than not, the game provides you a green orb at the beginning of tough sections that allow you to scope the place so you can set a strategy before diving in. Personally, I didn't finish all the Astral Gate challenges. Hardcore platforming isn't really my thing when playing Metroidvanias, especially when the reward doesn't tie into any of the game's endings. But if you're into precision gauntlets and mechanical mastery, Astral Gates will absolutely test your mettle. And now's as good a time as any to talk about Lone Fungus's accessibility options. The game's built from the ground up to be tailored to the player experience. It offers 3 preset difficulty modes and a custom option that lets you tweak parameters to fit your needs. So, if the game ever feels like too much, just know the dev has your back. Beyond that, the game's core philosophy centers around respecting your time, which I truly appreciate. The best example? these red thorny obstacles scattered throughout platforming sections. Touching them doesn't hurt you. Instead, they reset you to the start of the challenge. That means you can retry as many times as you want without fear of dying or losing progress. I can't think of a better way to keep players in the moment without punishing them, especially in a platformer this demanding. I'd have to say my one critique about platforming is more of a me issue than a design flaw. It took me longer than I'd like to admit to get used to the dashes in this game. They're mechanically fine, but they come with a steep learning curve, especially for old heads like me. Lone Fungus doesn't let you chain an upward dash and a forward dash in the same sequence. Platforming's built around action refreshes, meaning you can only perform each action once until you either hit something with your sword or touch a flower to reset your moves. So, I can forward dash into a flower and then forward dash again, but I can't forward dash and then upward dash without a refresh in between. It's always one or the other, then refresh, then one or the other again. You can never forward dash and upward dash in a single chain. Now again, this isn't a knock on Lone Fungus's design. The whole game's built around this limitation. I just personally didn't love it, especially in combat scenarios, but hey, that's just a me thing. I also want to call out just how wide this game's skill floor and skill ceiling are. Even without using accessibility options, Lone Fungus is very beginner friendly. As I mentioned earlier, the platforming on the critical path isn't super intense, and the game provides helpful tutorials and scenarios to practice new skills. But if you're looking for something more advanced, boy, does this game have what you want. I've already talked about the Ladybug courses and Astral Gates, but there's also a ton of hidden techs you can use to elevate your platforming. Things like using spells to gain extra air, or pulling off wall bounces in unorthodox ways to reach new heights. Lone Fungus is packed with off-the-wall tech that rewards cleverness and skill. So yeah, don't worry about this game being too hard or too easy. It's been designed to satisfy players on both ends of the spectrum, and I can't praise the dev's execution of that balance enough. That's it for this section. Lone Fungus may offer combat and spells galore, but its true heart lies in platforming. Layered, inventive, and sometimes downright absurd. With a sprawling ability set, quirky environmental mechanics, and optional gauntlets that range from rewarding to ridiculous, the game constantly invites you to experiment, retry, and master. And thanks to thoughtful accessibility options and a design philosophy that respects your time, even its wildest challenges feel fair. Whether you're chasing ladybugs or ricocheting through astral gates at Mach speeds, Lone Fungus makes sure the journey is yours to shape.
Progression.
Lone Fungus is very much a Metroid-like. No gear, no leveling, whatever you find while exploring, that's all the enhancement you're getting. So, what are we enhancing? HP via the tried and true find 4 things to get another hit point method, sword and spell damage by collecting green and blue bars respectively, and mind shrooms, which reduce spell costs. You can also increase your max MP by collecting random enemy drops, but those boosts vanish when you die. It's a weird mechanic for a Metroidvania, but not entirely unwelcome. It's a clever way to quote-unquote punish players without stealing their money or forcing corpse runs, which this game doesn't have, thank God. Also, this game doesn't have an economy, so even if it wanted to take your money when you died, it couldn't. No currencies, no shops, just you, your mushroom powers, and whatever you can find. You will, however, find more Hollow Knight inspiration in Lone Fungus's relic and emblem system. Much like Hollow Knight's charms, relics let you tweak the game in meaningful ways. One might let your MP recharge passively, another lets you swing your sword while walking. Each relic costs a certain number of points to equip, and you can increase your relic capacity by finding specific items while exploring. Emblems are similar, but you can only equip one at a time. I think the idea is that they offer more drastic modifications, but honestly, I didn't pay much attention to them. I found one that increased my parry window and just stuck with it the entire game. What can I say? I'm a simple man with simple parry needs. So yeah, your little mushroom dude can be customized into some pretty game-changing builds, as long as you keep your eyes peeled for relics and emblems along the way. That's it for progression. Lone Fungus keeps things simple but satisfying. No grinding, no shops, just pure exploration-driven upgrades. Whether you're boosting HP, tweaking spell costs, or building out a relic loadout that fits your playstyle, every enhancement feels earned. It's a system that requires curiosity over currency, and while it borrows from its inspirations, it still manages to carve out its own mushroom-shaped niche thanks to its focus on platforming and parrying.
Exploration.
Man, is this map big. Rarely do you see something as labyrinthine and sprawling as Lone Fungus. It actually looks like a mycelium network. I'm not going to show it all to avoid spoilers, but trust me, there's a lot of ground to cover, so pace yourself. It took me almost 10 hours to reach all the game's endings, and I skipped nearly every Ladybug course in Astral Gate. Between the constant backtracking, the sheer size of the world, and the high likelihood that retracing your steps means redoing tricky platforming sections, you've got a formula that could wear out its welcome if you don't pace it right. So, maybe take this game down in like 6 or 7 sessions for optimal enjoyability. And when I say there's a lot of backtracking, I'm not kidding. This game abilitizes you right out the gate. Very early on, you unlock 50 custom pins to place on your map, and by the end of the first third, you might already have a half of them marking spots you need to revisit. So, if you're a Metroidvania who loves scouring the map after every new skill unlocked, Lone Fungus is absolutely your jam. I'd recommend coming up with a pin system early because it's easy to get overwhelmed. The game gives you like a dozen different pin types, so assign specific ones to specific obstacles, and maybe jot down what they mean in a notebook. That helped me out anyway. I've got a pretty good memory thanks to all the MVs I play, but Lone Fungus is on another level. A well-oiled pin system will save lots of time and heartache in the long run. And you'd think having such an enormous map that requires tons of backtracking would have an excellent fast travel system that complements the retrace-heavy gameplay that, nope, of course not. The fast travel sucks. You can only teleport to large golden statues, and there's maybe 1, 2 if you're lucky, in an entire gigantic biome. Sure, there are smaller silver statues scattered around that would be perfect for fast travel, but can you use them? No. Why? F you, that's why. Full disclosure, fast travel eventually gets awesome. You unlock the ability to teleport between silver statues and even get a wand that lets you warp back to your last statue, but getting fast travel up to snuff is 100% optional. All the good fast travel tools are hidden behind false walls, keys, and locked doors. This design blows my mind. You know what's helpful for the player, you built it, and then you hide it behind a bunch of missable content? With a map this big and with this much backtracking, fast travel needs to be excellent from the jump to keep the pacing smooth. And I get pushback on this more than you think, but fast travel takes away from the Metroidvania experience. Then don't use it. Run around everywhere. Redo all the platforming puzzles. Refight every fight. Knock yourself out. But just because you don't want fast travel doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. Especially as games get bigger and bigger in this genre. Metroidvanias are getting way too big nowadays to not incorporate competent fast travel methods. Keeping fast travel features from the player isn't cool anymore. Make every save point travelable from the start. Let's get with the times, people. Hey, this is Future Luke from the future. I made this script before Lone Fungus 2 came out, and I've played through Lone Fungus 2. I even have a video out. You can check it out if you'd like. And I have to say, Basti nailed fast travel in this one. It's not perfect. It's very much Silk Song-like, where it wants to just take all your money, but it's pretty darn good. Anyway, back to the review. Now look, I'm not saying Lone Fungus sabotaged itself just to be cute with fast travel. Far from it. Exploring its world is genuinely fun. I just think a better fast travel system would have made it even more fun. That's all. So, let's talk about what makes exploration so fun. First, the game's a joy to traverse. Every new area brings fresh platforming puzzles, new enemies, environmental gimmicks, and more abilitizing dead ends. Second, those dead ends, and all the backtracking. Sure, better fast travel would help here, but even without it, it's still satisfying to scan your map for leads after unlocking a new ability. Which brings me to biome design. Each region feels like a true Metroidvania biome. Not a one-and-done level, but a layered space you revisit and recontextualize. With every new upgrade, you're diving deeper into familiar territory, uncovering secrets that were just out of reach. More often than not, those leads pay off with a course and a reward at the end. And hey, that's fun too. Finally, let's talk about rewards. I know I said I skipped most Ladybug courses and Astral Gates, but that's because the rewards weren't worth the effort, at least for me. I know some of you will find the challenge itself rewarding, and I respect that, but I preferred snagging a new relic or emblem. Thankfully, the green orb at the start of each challenge shows you the reward ahead of time, which made it easy to pick my battles. One last thing I want to point out before wrapping up, even though I went on a diatribe about fast travel, Lone Fungus really does a lot to respect your time. My favorite example, the Astral Gate hub. You'll find Astral Gates hidden all over the world, and while it's always a delight to discover one, I rarely felt like tackling them right then and there. They're total pace killers. I'm in the middle of exploring, and suddenly I'm staring down a Celeste-level platforming challenge? Nah, I'd rather stay in my groove and keep uncovering the map. Thankfully, the dev accounted for this. The Astral Gate hub is a giant space where every gate you've discovered becomes accessible. No need to hunt them down or backtrack. You can take them on whenever you're ready. I loved this. Not just for the convenience, but because when I was in a hardcore platforming mood, I could lock in and knock out 6 or 7 gates in a row without breaking my exploratory flow. That's it for exploration. Lone Fungus's exploration is rich, rewarding, and deeply player conscious. Between its sprawling map, layered biome design, and thoughtful touches like custom pins and the Astral Gate hub, the game invites you to chart your own course at your own pace. It's a world built for curiosity and for those with an eye for detail and great memorization. It may have stumbled on fast travel, but don't let my rant convince you that this game is anything but amazing.
Atmosphere, narrative.
Lone Fungus may take a lot of inspiration from the Bug game, but tonally, it couldn't be more different. Their setups are familiar. Lone hero destined to save a ruined underground kingdom. But Lone Fungus sets itself apart with its humor. Don't get me wrong, Hollow Knight is funny, but its humor leans on irony, dark undertones, and silly moments that contrast with its somberness. Lone Fungus, on the other hand, is just straight up goofy. Greencap is essentially a newborn child, and his dialogue reflects that. Most of his interactions are immature insults, silly jokes, or outright flippant dismissals. Which is an interesting choice considering every NPC either reveres him or defies him as a deity. I get the humor the game's going for, it just is not my thing. And because of that, it's hard to take Lone Fungus's world too seriously. Again, I get how juxtaposing an innocent, messianic child against an apocalyptic setting could be humorous. It just didn't land for me. Mostly because I didn't feel like there was much to get invested in. I understand there are 10 mushroom tribes you're meant to resurrect, and each biome is a decaying remnant of their past. But beyond that, I don't know much. Just that there was some undisclosed catastrophe and that humans used to exist, not that those two things are linked. There's not enough environmental storytelling to connect these biomes in a satisfying way. Like, in this world's prime, what was the purpose of the acid dungeon? Why would anyone ever need an acid dungeon? And if I'm given the chance to resurrect it, should I? Granted, there's probably a ton of lore I missed. I never returned to the NPC called the Professor, who explains the history of each tribe based on your mushroom cap. So maybe that's on me. And now let's move on to one of Lone Fungus's strongest suits, the visuals. One of my favorite details, Greencap's cap changes depending on which spell you've got equipped. And just look at the little dude. I cannot get enough of his running animation. The pixel work here is great. Greencap looks adorable, enemies are well designed, and the bosses are big and beautifully detailed. If you're into pixel art, Lone Fungus is absolutely for you. Sound design's solid too. As for the music, what I heard was fine, but with a game this backtrack heavy, I usually throw on a podcast or YouTube video in the background, and they sounded great, so W Lone Fungus, I guess. The game's narrative is pretty straightforward. I like the premise, Greencap gathering 10 spells to resurrect the world, but there's no real tension, no twists, no turns, you're told what to do, and you do it. I get it, it's a video game, and the tension lies in the platforming and combat. And I agree with this mentality. That's why I don't judge too harshly here. I'm just letting you know what to expect. No character arcs, no big revelations, you gotta do the thing, so you kill the bosses, and do the thing. There are 3 endings. 2 are easy to figure out, and the 3rd I found completely by accident, which is always cool. I don't have much to say about how to get them. There's no quote-unquote path, you just stumble into the alternatives or follow the main one by doing what the game tells you. I'm not disappointed, I just don't have much to say. It's all fine, and I appreciate being able to find them. And that's it for this section. Lone Fungus may not deliver a deeply emotional narrative or richly interconnected lore, but it knows what kind of game it wants to be, and it commits. Its goofy tone, charming visuals, and straightforward premise keep things light, while the platforming and exploration do the heavy lifting. If you're here for tight mechanics and pixel polish, you'll feel right at home in this fungal kingdom.
Final thoughts and score.
Lone Fungus is a love letter to classic Metroidvanias with clear nods to Hollow Knight. Its platforming is the star, layered, inventive, and packed with optional challenges for those who dare. While its narrative tone doesn't hit the mark and fast travel leaves room for improvement, the game more than makes up for it with charming visuals, deep spell mechanics, and a design philosophy that respects your time and skill level. Whether you're here to pogo, parry, or ricochet at light speeds, Lone Fungus delivers a satisfying, mushroom-powered adventure. I award Lone Fungus a 6.7 out of 10. I'm just kidding. I'm doing that to annoy my daughter. I award Lone Fungus an 8 out of 10. Lone Fungus is available on PC and the Nintendo Switch. I played it exclusively on the Steam Deck with 0 issues, and therefore give it a Steam Deck rating of verified.
Pair placement.
Lone Fungus delivers a mechanically rich Metroidvania experience with standout platforming, unnecessarily deep combat with its spellcasting, and a progression system that rewards curiosity over currency. Its combat is fast and flexible, its exploration is sprawling and player conscious with lots of rewards and collectibles, and its accessibility options make even the wildest challenges feel fair. While the narrative leans goofy to the point of being a tongue-in-cheek parody and the fast travel system stumbles early on, the game's commitment to experimentation, replayability, and pixel polish ensures it's an NV that deserves being checked out. Lone Fungus bounces at Mach speed into the B tier. Lone Fungus comes highly recommended to Metroidvaniers who prioritize platforming and want their skills tested. But it's also a great pick for MV enjoyers who love getting lost in sprawling worlds. Honestly, I think most Metroidvania fans will find something to love here. Its quality is so good, it doesn't leave much room for improvement.